Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss if Bo Nix will become the next Patrick Mahomes. What the heck are we talking about? Well, last week the NFL draft happened, and Thursday the Denver Broncos selected their next franchise quarterback, Bo Nix, with the 12th overall selection. Bo Nix was the sixth quarterback taken out of the first 12 picks. And Sean Payton has high hopes for Bo Nix, and he once upon a time had high hopes for another quarterback in the first round that the New Orleans Saints were planning on drafting in 2017. I'll go ahead and show you guys this Adam Schefter tweet because this is a story that has been circulating for a while, but I haven't talked about it here on the show. So this is the tweet, and this is something that Schefter fired off right after the pick, so he had this thing loaded up. Sean Payton wanted and intended to draft Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 draft when he held the 11th overall pick. He was ready to turn in the card, but before he could, the Chiefs traded up to the Bills spot at number 10 and took Mahomes one spot before Payton got him, leaving the Saints to draft Ohio State cornerback Marshon Lattimore. Payton feels as strongly about Bo Nix as he did Mahomes. Now, he's not saying that tweet is not saying that Sean Payton thinks that Bo Nix will become Patrick Mahomes or will become better than Patrick Mahomes. He's basically saying, hey, once upon a time, I had a really good feeling about a quarterback, and that quarterback was Patrick Mahomes. And now I feel really good about this Bo Nix kid. So, and I don't feel that good about quarterbacks that often. So, take my word on it. With that being said, though, this is where the kind of, and again, I understand he's not saying that he thinks those quarterbacks are going to be the same type of player or anything like that, because Patrick Mahomes, but then this kind of gets into like our conversation here of the difference between the type of prospect Patrick Mahomes was and the type of prospect that Bo Nix was. Patrick Mahomes was a kind of a high ceiling type of prospect where he had the profile coming out of him out of Texas Tech was this dude had a bazooka arm, but he was very inconsistent. He did not necessarily make good decisions with the ball. He tried to force things a lot of times, and kind of his, when people were talking about him being a draft pick, it was like, hey, this dude's got to clean some stuff up. He's got to stop making as much mistakes. He's got to be more accurate. He's got to be more consistent. And obviously he's done all of those things and then some with the Kansas City Chiefs. Bo Nix is a completely different type of prospects, where this guy is more of a higher floor, lower ceiling, where Bo Nix does have he does have a lot of starts down from his time at Auburn and his time at Oregon. He's a guy that you've been hearing all the reports and stuff coming out of Denver, where this guy, knows all the playbooks really well, is really good, under center and reading defenses and knowing playbooks. And the fact that this guy, has like the quarterback personality that Sean Payton's talking about, their personalities really clicked. So it's a completely different thing there, because Bo Nix, the talent on Bo Nix now, hey man, I'm not saying he's like, untalented, but if you're comparing like his arm and his athleticism, it's like, the arm's okay, but it's not, a really good arm. The athleticism's okay, but he's not really athletic. So they're two completely different types of prospects. And this kind of gets me into a little bit of my Sean Payton theory, because this is my Sean Payton theory, guys. But give me a second here. I'm going to explain it to you, because Sean Payton, as you guys know, longtime coach of the New Orleans Saints, leaves the New Orleans Saints to go onto TV, NFL on Fox. Well, he basically takes a break from coaching. While he's taking that break on coaching, goes to be NFL on Fox. And people were kind of talking about this with Sean Payton. It's like, hey, this guy's going to come back to coaching at some point. People were theorizing like maybe like the Cowboys, that job came open. We all knew that the Chargers job was kind of like a lame duck with Brandon Staley last year. So maybe it's only a matter of time where Sean Payton comes back, because, and Peter Schrager has said this multiple times on the record, where he said, hey, if Sean Payton was going to come back, there are three things that he would want out of a franchise that he was going to go become a head coach of. One, he would want roster control, okay, or significant control of the roster. He would want a franchise quarterback, and he would want to compete right away for winning Super Bowls. So that begs the question, guys, why the hell did he go to the Denver Broncos? Why did he go to the Broncos? Because the Broncos, okay, they gave him one of those things, using my other hand there, one of those things where it's like, hey, you get significant control over the roster. Russell Wilson's washed. You're not getting the franchise quarterback. Plus, they give up a bunch of assets to get him, and you're not ready to win Super Bowls. The real answer is they gave him a bunch of money. That's why he went to the Broncos. But it still doesn't make sense. But here's kind of getting back to after that little tangent, here's my Sean Payton story or theory is that, for a year on TV, he was talking to, NFL legends. If you're looking at NFL on Fox, they got so many of them. They got like 10 of them that they throw up there on screen every single week. I think all of them were telling him, like, oh my God, Sean Payton, you're so smart. You're an offensive genius. You're a wizard. You look at your track record. Look at all those Saints teams where Drew Brees was thrown all over the place. You revived his career. You're a Super Bowl champion. You're a future Hall of Famer. And I think they were telling him that, his poop don't stink. And I think Sean Payton became a little bit of a fart sniffer, and he was sniffing his own farts. And he was like, yeah, I am Sean Payton. And you have to be confident if you're going to be, in professional sports at the highest level of competition. I understand that. But I genuinely think when Sean Payton took that Denver Broncos job, he was like, I can change Russell Wilson's career. I can revive his career. And look at me. I'm Sean Payton. I'm so smart. And look at all of the amazing things that people are going to say to me if I can revive Russell Wilson's career. Well, to Sean Payton's credit a little bit, Russell Wilson's stats were pretty good last year. They just weren't winning games. Now, again, you could look at like maybe, reasons that they're winning those games or when they started winning a few games together, their turnover margin was like crazy. But Russell Wilson did have a little bit of a better year last year than the year before. But he spent 7 minutes with Russell Wilson. Was like, I freaking hate this dude. And I want the team to spend a whole bunch of money and take a massive cap hit. So this guy can't be here. So now Sean Payton decides to draft Bo Nix, a guy that is, did have good stats in college, was second in the Heisman, but is a little bit under talented, maybe a little bit undersized. And I think Sean Payton's like, oh, watch me. Watch what I can do with Bo Nix. Watch what I can do here. Another Sean Payton part here too, of kind of Sean Payton wants people to think he's so smart. And there's kind of like there's people who are saying this with like Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers said a whole bunch of crazy stuff over the last 6 months that I don't really want to talk about. But I know Daniel Tosh did this excellent like breakdown of Aaron Rodgers, and he's like, and one of the points he made, I'm going to paraphrase a little. Basically, and this isn't like a unique thing, but sometimes like the smartest person in the room doesn't tell everyone that they're the smartest person in the room. And Sean Payton basically did that post draft, where it was like a press conference, and he's talking about. There's a little line where he's basically like, "Yeah, man, I did such a good job of telling everyone that we were going to move up, and you could tell that everyone thought we were going to move up, and that's why the Vikings traded up. As you guys know, the Vikings traded up like one spot to get JJ McCarthy, which doesn't even make sense. Like, okay, so you made a team in another conference waste more assets than they had to, and a team in your conference acquired more assets and more draft picks and more capital in your conference. So, like, I don't know what the brag was there, but you know what the brag was? He's like, I'm Sean Payton, and I'm this genius, and I made the Vikings think we were going to trade up because I'm so smart, and I'm Sean Payton. And hey, man, Todd McShay said this last week after that pick. It's an arrogant pick because, and again, we talked about this earlier. The reason they picked him so high was because they didn't have a second round pick. But, this is going to be a real case here of nature versus nurture, if I can spit that out correctly, of the quarterback position. Because, again, I know I was being critical of Sean Payton. I'm being a little bit critical of his ego with some of the decisions that he's been making in his career recently. But the dude is still a really good football coach. He is a really good football coach. The only problem is, even if you have Bo Nix in your division, even if Bo Nix turns out to be a decent quarterback, a 10-year starter, he's still the third best quarterback in your division. He's still not as good as Patrick Mahomes, who's been running that division like it's hard to walk since he became a starter. Justin Herbert's still in that division with Jim Harbaugh, who's now building that roster for the Chargers. That's going to be a tough team. And the Raiders are kind of a mess, but there's still a lot of talent on that team. That is a tough division to get out of. And if you're trying to go through the wild card every year, to make it to a Super Bowl, you are climbing a very hard uphill battle. So we'll see, if Sean Payton, turns Bo Nix into a top 10 quarterback. I think that's probably one of the better jobs he's done in his coaching career, but I'm skeptical. And I think Sean Payton's been sniffing his farts a little bit too much. He's a little bit too full of himself. He's flying a little bit too close to the sun. And it's going to be very interesting to see here because, the Broncos have entrusted a lot of their brain trust and a lot of their success and a lot of their roster, franchise control on the football field to Sean Payton. And it might not even be his fault, but just the fact they're in that tough division, I don't know what the future next 5 years looks like for the Broncos, but I'm not predicting much playoff success. So there you have it, guys. That's going to do it for this episode here today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you got this far in the video, you're a real one. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave a comment what you think about this draft pick. It really helps us out in the algorithm if you do all three of those things. So I very much appreciate that. Maybe check out the Sports Detective podcast channel page. You might find some other videos that you enjoy. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you next time.